Welcome to The Note, I'm Ashley.
I'm Brian.
Nintendo has, historically speaking, not been a big fan of ROMs, but now it's going after two major sites that have been offering Nintendo ROMs, suing them for a total of, $100 million or so, give or take.
Yeah, it's not the first time Nintendo has done this, but the case once again brings up issues of legality when it comes to ROMs and the constant game of whack-a-mole that companies like Nintendo play.
Well, it also brings up, interesting question, why is Nintendo doing this now? These sites aren't new.
Right.
Why now?
Right. These latest lawsuits come against Love ROMs and Love Retro in federal court in Arizona over what Nintendo calls copyright and trademark infringement.
Yeah, so while ROMs operate in a bit of legal gray area, which we'll talk about, we'll get into that more, Nintendo has been very aggressive over the last, billion years in targeting sites that have ROMs available for download.
The legality of ROMs, interestingly, never been tested in court, but when it comes to Nintendo, there's no question they're on the wrong side of the law and they need to be eradicated.
Okay, so let's get into it.
All right, according to the lawsuit, which was obtained by Torrent Freak, Nintendo claims that both of those sites are operated by one person, Jacob Matthias, and his Arizona company, Matthias Designs.
Nintendo says in the suit, the Love ROMs and Love Retro websites are among the most open and notorious online hubs for pirated video games. Through the Love ROMs and Love Retro websites, defendants reproduce, distribute, publicly perform, and display a staggering number of unauthorized copies of Nintendo's video games, all without Nintendo's permission.
Yeah, Nintendo also claims that the sites, they're not just hobby retro gaming sites.
Not just enthusiasts.
No.
Not just people who love this. Oh no.
Nope, it says they're professional operations and they make a profit.
Nintendo says in the suit, defendants are not casual gamers, but are instead sophisticated parties with extensive knowledge of Nintendo's intellectual property and the video game industry more generally.
The sites also get a ton of traffic. Nintendo said that Love ROM's website alone, 17 million visitors each month. So that's serious business.
Yeah, and Nintendo's asking for a lot of money in its suit. Partially, probably because it gets so many visitors, and that means so many downloads. They are going for millions and millions of dollars.
To be specific, it's asking for $150,000 in damages per Nintendo game and up to $2 million for each trademark being infringed upon. We're talking total 140 copyrighted titles and 40 trademarks that were mentioned in the suit.
So, carrying the one, doing the math, could end up being over $100 million in damages once all the infractions are tallied up.
But let's be honest, it's pretty doubtful that Nintendo would collect even a fraction of that.
And no one got that kind of cash.
No, not any ROM site operator. Nintendo's ultimate goal here probably just wants to force the sites to shut down.
Yeah, of course, this is not the first time Nintendo has gone after ROMs of its games on the internet. It has a very long history of doing so. Not just ROMs, fan games too.
Oh yeah.
They are not happy about it, but ROMs have been a sore point for a long time.
Yeah, and for years now, there have been a ton of discussion online about whether or not ROMs are legal. There's a lot of information out there, a lot of it's wrong. Some argue that a lot of these games, they're no longer commercially available and that ROMs are the easiest way to play them.
Or the only way to play them. If you can't really buy them anymore, maybe they belong in a museum.
Right.
But the reality is still legal gray area because, again, it hasn't been tested in court. And until it is, it's sort of up for debate. And people will debate on whatever side they want it to fall on.
Right. Derek E. Bambauer, who teaches internet law and intellectual property at the University of Arizona, he weighed in on this. He talked to the site How to Geek, and he said, for the most part, they are not legal.
And it largely depends on how the downloaded ROMs are being used. For example, if you download a copy of a game that you don't own, that's the same as grabbing a TV show or a movie or downloading a car. It's a violation of copyright.
That was such a great bit.
You would download a car.
Yeah. I mean, if all my friends were.
I would.
Right.
I would. If I could, I'd 3D print it.
Oh, that would be surely. Get those plans online. Bambauer did say that there is a possible legal defense as far as ROMs if you own a copy of the game, because in that case, he says you might be covered by fair use.
Well, specifically, he says you're not giving the game to anybody else. You're just playing a game you already own on your phone. The argument would be there's no market harm here, that it's not substituting for a purchase.
Another argument some users make is that if they own a game, they should be able to play it on any device they want. And Bambauer notes that other industries, like the music business, accepts that space shifting is legal. Now, that's a term meaning that users will sometimes consume media on a variety of devices.
And if the music music industry is ahead of the video game industry on this. That's a new one.
And they've sued individual users.
Oh, yeah. I love that. Nintendo disagrees with all of this, unsurprisingly. It has a whole section of its website dedicated to its legal opinion on ROMs.
Yeah, and it can be summed up with no! Under a section titled, Can I download a Nintendo ROM from the internet if I already own the authentic game? Nintendo says, no you can't.
Nope.
It says whether you have an authentic game or not, or whether you have possession of a Nintendo ROM for a limited amount of time, i.e. 24 hours, it is illegal to download and play a Nintendo ROM from the internet.
But should be noted, Nintendo doesn't make the laws, so it doesn't necessarily have the final word on this, and Nintendo also has a vested interest in the strictest possible interpretation of legality.
Yeah, and some video game museums have gotten permission to emulate.
There are different
for archival purposes.
Absolutely. And there's different developers and different publishers with varying tolerances of ROMs, especially for games that they're not even distributing anymore.
Yes.
I mean, look at GOG. In fact, NoClip just put out a really cool documentary, which you should totally check out, about GOG's preservation of old games. So you should definitely look at that.
Yeah, it's really good. As for sharing ROMs, Bambauer says that is pretty clearly illegal. He said once you're distributing a ROM, most of the people downloading it probably don't have the legal copies of the games. Then it is market harm because Nintendo should be able to sell to those people.
As for the two sites named in the suit, both Love Retro and Love ROMs are shut down as of Monday afternoon.
So that's what's happening, but why? Why is Nintendo doing this now? Because these sites have been operating for years and years and years. You have to assume Nintendo was aware of them.
Well, to some degree, but as you might know, Nintendo is set to roll out its paid online subscription service in September, which you'll need to play online games, and then a 12-month subscription. It's $20. Not really going to break the bank for most consumers, but as part of it, they're offering some classic NES games, including Legend of Zelda, Dr. Mario, Super Mario Bros. 3.
Yeah, Nintendo's released these games several times over the years, but these classic games are clearly one of Nintendo's pillars in trying to make their subscription service attractive enough to consumers to justify the monthly fee. And if you can easily download these games wherever you want, that's damaging to them.
Yeah, and then we also don't have any word yet on more substantial plans for Nintendo distributing classic games. They have just put out their NES and SNES classic consoles as a sort of platform for distribution. They've got this online service play they're working on, but they did walk back previous talks of Virtual Console for the Switch, with Switch Online sort of presumably replacing it.
Yeah, that doesn't mean they won't still distribute classic games beyond the subscription service, just that they don't seem to be planning to do so under the Virtual Console banner, but that's really just semantics. Since they've been going more with the classics branding already, and they've got their eShop as a distribution platform, it isn't too much of a stretch to think they could just distribute retro games as Super Mario Bros. Classic or something like that. Just streamline the branding a little bit.
Well, at any rate, whatever its reasons, it is clear that Nintendo was once again coming down hard on ROM sites, and judging by the amount of money Nintendo's seeking, they're very serious about it.
What do you guys think about Nintendo suing these ROM sites? Let us know in the comments.
I'm sure this comment section will be really fun.
Woo! Yeah.
Well, for all your Nintendo news, especially leading into the Switch Online rollout, make sure you like this video, and if you're new around here, subscribe to the know. Da, 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 da. I can never talk on a Monday. It's like I forget how on a weekend. I'm constantly tripping over my tongue. She sells seashells.
I remember that with handwriting. Claims that both of those sites are operated by one person, Jacob Matthias, and his Erica.